welcome to the virtual Sunday service for Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lake Norman. Our fellowship walks diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united in our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all and the obligation to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Nicole Gantz. I've been an active member of this congregation since 2014. When we get together as a community, we light a chalice and share a thought about what that means. Today's is from Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Our speaker this morning is Eric Bannan. He is a husband, father, songwriter, storyteller, U.S. Coast Guard Rescue Flight Crew veteran, backcountry adventure racer, and cancer survivor with a master's in computer science. He has been called to share his art to inspire, heal, motivate for positive change, and build community. Eric's reflection today is entitled The Practice of Gratitude, which will be a light-hearted look at the practice of gratitude. We will explore ways to invite joy into our lives and improve resilience with gratitude. And now, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Journey that starts with Him. If you got a burden, come lay it on down. Raise up your voices as we gather around. Whoever you are, whomever you come share your story. Our chalice flame burns. If your heart is broken or you've been disowned, come join our circle and turn off your phone. Whoever you are, whomever you sanctuary, guided by the light. If you hear that calling, come join the fight. Marching for justice, candles lit in the night. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you came It's that last line now. You are welcome here. Okay, last time. Quick finish. Here we go. You are welcome here. Good morning. Eric Bannan here. What are you grateful for today? Right here, right now? Maybe it's that cup of coffee in your hand. Maybe it's the warmth coming off of it, or the fancy mug that it's in. Maybe it's the comfy chair you're sitting in, or maybe you're sitting on your back porch in the sun. Maybe it's the cat that's trying to get your attention, or the dog asleep in the corner. So many things to be grateful for in this world. You know, gratitude is something we hear about all the time, but what exactly is it? Is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Is it a state of being? You know, when I Googled this question, I found a boatload of research on this subject. Now, my favorite definition came from an article published by the Harvard Medical School entitled, "Giving Thanks Can Make You Happier." And I'm going to quote them here. It says, "The word gratitude is derived from the Latin word gratia, which means grace, graciousness, gratefulness, depending on the context. In some ways, gratitude encompasses all of these meanings. Gratitude is a thankful appreciation for what an individual receives, whether tangible or intangible. With gratitude, people acknowledge the goodness in their lives. In this process, people usually recognize that the source of that goodness lies at least partially outside themselves. As a result, gratitude also helps people connect with something larger than themselves, as individuals, okay? Whether it's to other people, to nature, or to a higher power. You know, that sounds suspiciously like the seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism, respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. And they go on to say, in positive psychology research, gratitude is strongly and consistently associated with greater happiness. Gratitude helps people feel more positive emotions, feel relish good experiences, improve their health, deal with adversity, and build strong relationships. Now, my favorite news that you can use quote from this article is, regardless of the inherent or current level of someone's gratitude, it's a quality that individuals can successfully cultivate further. Successfully cultivate further the practice of gratitude. Now, I also, while I was Googling around, saw this great interview with Brene Brown, where she talks about how gratitude is a great way of inviting joy into your life. She did this huge research project about joy and was astounded by the results. And I'm going to quote Brene here. Without exception, every person I interviewed who described living a joyful life described themselves as joyful, actively practiced gratitude and attributed their joyfulness to that practice. And she goes on to say, both joy and gratitude were described as spiritual practices that were bound to a belief in human interconnectedness and a power greater than us. There's that seventh principle again, kind of sneaking in there. So how can we invite joy into our lives with the practice of gratitude? I'm grateful for that water. Now, it might be something as simple as saying thank you. Some people keep gratitude journals. I've seen some people on social media do like a daily gratitude posting. But it's been my experience that the practice of gratitude takes practice. That may sound kind of silly, but research shows that gratitude is something we can grow and get better at. So let's do a little gratitude practice right now, okay? And see if we can invite a little joy into our lives. Now, you won't be asked to share the results. You won't be tested on or graded on any of this later either, okay? So, here we go. Take a moment right now and try this simple exercise. Off the top of your head, see if you can come up with 3 things that you are grateful for right now. Okay. Now, if you couldn't think of anything, or if you couldn't think of 3 things, that's okay. Try the exercise again later, because gratitude takes practice. Now, life is not all unicorns and rainbows. We've been through some very dark times, especially in the last year. But sometimes being grateful for the small things can get us ready to be grateful for the larger things in our lives. Now, the morning I started writing this sermon, okay, a month or so ago, I asked myself this question: what are the 3 things I'm grateful for? And this is what I came up with. Number 1, I am grateful for 2 functioning lungs, okay? The joy that I feel when I take a deep breath and feel both sides of my chest and my diaphragm expanding can be overwhelming at times. I had cancer back in 2018, and I know what it's like to have only 1 lung functioning. But that's a story for another time. Number 2, the Carolina wrens. The Carolina wrens outside my window singing tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, with all the tail bobbing joy they can muster. I love the wrens. Then one flies by my window with some nesting material in its beak, leaving no doubt that spring has truly arrived. Item number 3, the moaning and groaning coming from my teenage son, who's not a morning person, who has not only survived, but adapted and thrived through his first year of high school, online with no in-person schooling or social life. Now, I personally try to avoid comparative gratitude. Now, I could stand up here and go on and on about how grateful I am for having clean, drinkable water, access to health care, and the right to vote, etc., but that's not really news you can use, okay? Now, I was having a guidance session with my preaching mentor, Reverend Tom Below, and I was told in no uncertain terms not to compare myself to anyone else in my gratitude sermon, that no good could possibly come from this. Now, in principle, I agree with this, but every now and then a major life lesson just falls into your lap that's too good to not share. Now, I'm working on a new album of original songs. Back in March, I booked some recording studio time with my dear friend and my producer, who produced my last 2 albums, a guy named Chris Rosser. Now, Chris is a natural-born musical genius. I mean, he's forgotten more about music than I'm probably ever going to know. Now, I arrived at his studio at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I noticed he was looking a little rough around the edges. Now, during our little check-in, he related to me that he'd been up till 3 a.m. working on the final mix for an album for a folk band. I think it was like 3 a.m. the last 2 nights. This particular project had him pulling out his hair. The band he was working with had been signed to a record contract. And the record company didn't quite like the way it sounded. So the record company was telling him to change this, and the artist was telling him to change that and not to change this. And he was in the middle, and it was making him crazy. Whew. So we decided to take a little walk around his wonderful West Asheville neighborhood to see if a bit of fresh air could help him get a little reset. Now, as we were climbing a particularly steep hill, we noticed this beige pickup truck double parked in front of a house. And it had that advertising wrap all around it, okay? And all this signage was proudly proclaiming the virtue of pet poo skidoo. Now, Chris and I, at this point, my songwriter brain went, oh my God, what a song I could write about pet poo skidoo. And as Chris and I were discussing the musical possibilities of writing a jingle for this company, a smiling young woman in a beige uniform shirt came from behind the house and deposited a large plastic bag in the bin of the truck. And she was happy to tell us all about pet poo skidoo. And we were just so impressed with her positive demeanor and the entrepreneurial acumen for her employer. Who would think to come to someone's house and clean up their yard for them? Who would think of that? Now, as we were walking away from this conversation with the pet poo skidoo employee, I could see Chris shaking his head. And I looked at him and I said, "What?" And he looks at me and he says, "I'm never going to complain about my job again." Okay, moving right along. So let's look at some other ways to invite joy into our lives with gratitude. One of the easiest ways to practice gratitude is just to say thank you. Researchers at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania found that managers who said thank you found their employees were motivated to work harder. Now, just to make sure that you walk away with plenty of other options today, here's a quick list of ways that we can all cultivate gratitude on a regular basis. Number one, write a thank you note or an email. Number two, thank someone mentally. No time to write? It may be helpful just to think of someone who has been good or kind to you. Number three, keep a gratitude journal. Number four, don't like journals? Get some little of those Post-it notes in neon colored and write things you're grateful for on and just put them in the house. And you might run into one. You'll be feeling bad and you'll see one of those Post-its and go, I'm grateful for something here. Number five, count your blessings. At the beginning of 2021, I sat down to write the highlights and the lowlights of the previous year of 2020. Now, on the lowlight side of the paper, there were like 3 items. Yeah, pandemic. On the other side, on the highlight side of the page, that list just kept going and going and going. I ran out of paper. Number 6, pray. Prayer. Many people use prayer to cultivate gratitude. Number 7, meditation. Focusing on the present moment or what you are grateful for can be a very beneficial experience. Now, my personal favorite gratitude practice is called 5 little words. And those words are, I am so grateful for, insert something you're grateful for. I'm so grateful right now for the honor of sharing my words and music with you this morning. Now, I find myself doing this more and more these days. As we emerge from the pandemic, I realize that I'm not used to being around other people. And some of my neighbors are really getting on my nerves. So I take a deep breath and I say those words and I focus on something good in my life. I recently started taking a short gratitude walk in my garden every morning. I just see how many things can I see and smell and hear and feel and touch that I can be grateful for. And this brings me into the present in a very soothing way. Now, just to wrap this all up in a neat little package for you, our fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, gives us permission to come up with our own spiritual practices. And I would like to invite you to do just that. Is there something interesting or unusual for you, or an unusual way? Let's try that again. Is there some interesting or unusual way for you to practice gratitude that is unique to you and your life circumstances? Well, I would invite all of you to invite some joy into your life today with the practice of gratitude. Thank you, and may this be so. Hi, Eric Bannan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Maestro Glenn on the piano. We're going to do a traditional hymn, Wade in the Water, with lyrics I learned from folk singer, storyteller Reggie Harris.
Sacred spaces we are making when we gather and we sing. Round the campfire in a street choir. Join the circle, let it ring. Ain't that some amazing grace? The sanctuary we create. Bring your troubles, tell your story, pass that old guitar around. Raise your voices, make it joyous, listen for that holy sound. Ain't that some amazing grace? The sanctuary we create. Da-do-way-o, see you say-o. Da-do-way-o, say, say, say. Da-do-way-o, see you say-o. Da-do-way-o, say, say, say. Feel your heartbeat, there's a rhythm. There is music all around. Find another sister or brother, take a stand on holy ground. Ain't that some amazing grace? The sanctuary we create. Do-way-o, see you say-o. Da-do-way-o, say, say, say. Da-do-way-o, see you say-o. Da-do-way-o, say, say, say. Ain't that some amazing grace? A sanctuary we create. Ain't that some amazing grace? A sanctuary we create.
Thank you, Eric, for your insightful and encouraging message. We are very grateful for the musical gift you've shared with us today. And now for a few announcements. If you are a visitor, welcome. I'm so pleased you chose to give our virtual service a try. If you like what you've heard so far and are wondering how to stay connected with our congregation, please reach out to membership chair, Linda. Her email address is right at the bottom of the screen. You can even get on the email list for our newsletter. You'll have a head start on the Sunday service and check out all the activities we're still pursuing, even during a pandemic. 2 services in June will be in person. The host for the June 13th at 10 a.m. will be Marge and Sandy, and the host for June 27th will be Jim Price. The service will also appear virtually. Details about these services can be found in the newsletter. In case you haven't heard, our fellowship currently has a vibrant children's program that meets every Sunday morning for fellowship, character building, and lots of fun activities. If you know a child in the area that isn't involved yet, do them a favor and get in touch with our spiritual director, Autumn. Her email address can be found at the bottom of the screen. Autumn is also actively gathering contact information for teens for our teen group meeting in person starting late this summer. We encourage members to continue reaching out to one another virtually whenever possible. Make regular Skype or Zoom dates, or just pick up the telephone. It's important that we put in the extra effort to sustain the deep bonds our community has formed. I'd like to close with words from Michael R. LeDuc. May we look with gratitude upon this day, for the beauty of the world, for the first radiance of dawn, and the last smoldering glow of sunset. Let us be thankful for physical joys, for hills to climb and hard work to do, for music that lifts our hearts in one breath, for the handclasp of a friend, and for the gracious loveliness of children who remind us of the wonders of life. For all of this, and for the countless other blessings present in our lives, let us be grateful. Blessed be.